Hello guys, welcome to terrain creation tutorial for game engines. As we all know that game engines actually give you the two package to create a landscape, but the thing is they are actually pretty primitive. No matter it's sculpting or doing texturing on them, their brushes are limited. The sculpting is wonky. So this tutorial is going to explore the ways you can use to create the landscape outside of the game engine in both sculpting and texturing manner. Okay, now what I'm going to do to start with is ZBrush. Okay, I'm going to create a plane here. And then I need to make it polymesh 3D so I can sculpt on it. Okay. The purpose here is just using the brush to drag out the big mountains here. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is marking out where my big mountains is located. Okay, I don't want to go too crazy. Just the layout, okay, just the layout, no fancy detail yet. And when you're laying out the big mountains, you want to probably have a reference. If you have a concept design, that would be nice. If you don't, some reference of beautiful mountains would be nice. You can take that as reference to see the variations of the mountain. Human brain is always having this intention to think things in a logical way, and that's not good for creative stuff, because sometimes you will end up with repetitive shapes, the same kind of shape all the time, because you're thinking all logically. Okay, so let's just try to create variations. There are higher mountains, not that high, low mountains, this kind of thing. All right, and I want to create an environment that does have a couple big mountains around it. You see what I mean? Is look at this shape here. This shape I'm getting, this negative shape, and compared to that one, they're pretty close. That's what I mean. Human man are always trying to repeat the stuff. So you want to be able to break that up, okay, to get a natural result. You can see the mountain here, this one, compared to that one. See the similarity? Okay, try to avoid that if possible. Okay, so I'm just laying out my mountains, no big deal. Just drawing out their basic shape, and probably a little detail on where they goes at the bottom. Maybe a flattened top here would be interesting, rather than all the same kind of pointy top. Okay, just trying to make it look more natural and interesting. So those mountains are more or less the same height, but it does have a lot of smaller mountain tops across the entire top. Okay. Others are more pointy. See the repetitive shape there? Okay. Let me fix that. Maybe I can drag that one away, make it pointing that way. Okay. We even have some smaller connection between those two. Alright. So when you're happy with your mountain, you can go Control D to smooth it, so you're getting a smoother result. And then what you want to do is you want to go to Document, change your document size into a square shape. I'm gonna go for 1280, and then resize it. Yes, okay. And press T, Control N to drag in a new one, because the original one is stretched. Press F to frame it to your screen, and you also want to make it bigger so it fills in this big square we created. That's also depending on your screen resolution. So if your screen is 4K, you can probably go for 2K image. If your resolution is only HD, then you can only go for 512. That's because this size, this documentation size, is actually based on the resolution of your monitor. Anyway, so just frame it here. Make sure you have no edges, otherwise you will get not clean enough result. Okay, unclean result. Okay. Anyway, but after that, all you have to do is go alpha and then grab it as a alpha, and then export it. Okay. Let's change the format into TIFF and then save it somewhere. I'm gonna just save it here and then save to replace the one I had earlier. It's gonna be a heightmap, and we can use that heightmap directly in Game Engine or other packages. So that's the first step in ZBrush. The goal here is lay out the mountain, and I think the most efficient and totally in control way is using ZBrush. Let's move on to the next package, which is the word machine. Okay, word machine is a terrain generator, and here what you see is more or less like a node-based editor, just like how Maya can offer you with material editor or even the node editor. Okay, and they're all nodes, and then comment here. So let's start with nothing. I'm gonna go Shift Delete to delete everything here in the graph and start over. I can go for generator and then go to the file import, and that will allow me to create file import node. I can create multiple ones. To cancel creation, just right click to finish it. I don't need any of those ones, I just need one of those, and then double click on it and then load to load a heightmap. Okay, that's my heightmap. Load it and then press OK. Now you see your mountain is now being generated. You can actually look at it from the 3D view. That's how it looks like. Alright. So the next step is start giving it more detail. Okay. What I like to do is, and first of all, I think my middle part is kind of empty, so I want a little mountain there. Of course, I cannot sculpt it here because it's already done. You can go back to ZBrush and do that, but you can also do some mountains here right in Word Machine. Right in Word Machine, all you have to do is go back to the device view and then use this layout generator and then create one of the one layout generator. Right click to cancel the creation of another one, and then let's double click on it to get into it. So here is a graph that allows you to draw out some mountains. I'm gonna go for this little polygon one, and then just create some vertices by left clicking and then right mouse click to finish the entire creation. Okay, and then if you keep dragging clicking, you can create new one and then right click to finish it. To really get rid of that too, just right click twice. That's gonna get rid of that too. I'm gonna delete this new one I created and work on this one. So it looks too big. Okay, you can double click on it and change its fall off distance to make it go smaller. I also don't like the top, it seems like really flat. I'm gonna make it smaller here for the top. Oh, that actually converted into a line when you make it too small. And I can of course select it and double click on it. Actually I can't because it becomes a line. Oh, I can actually click that shape properties to bring up the property, maybe make the fall off a little bit bigger. Okay, you can tweak this in whatever way you want it to be. Also change it, is going to be bulging out or going in, all sorts of different curvatures. Okay, so I just need a smaller mountain in the middle. Of course you can drag in other ones like this circle if you want to have some variation, and you can drag that as to tweak the fall off, maybe the circle one around it to just give it more variation, I guess. Okay, so I have a smaller mountain here. You can try other tools like this line tool will allow you to create a line shape. Okay, but no matter what kind of shape you create using this way, it looks chunky, okay, or too simple. to perfect. You can break that out by using the break up option here to give it some more variation, and then you can go to the edit to control how much you want to break it up. You can change the break up scale to something smaller. That's gonna give it more interesting variation. I think that's maybe too much. Okay, and you can also go to the roughness and bring roughness up. That's gonna give it smaller detail. Interesting. So make it maybe a little bigger there. Alright, so I have a smaller mountain created in the middle. Let me go back to the device view, and we can see both my landscape from ZBrush and then the new one I created. So the question is, how do we combine those together? You can go to the combiner and use this combiner node, and then you can just drag those two into the inputs, and then you see now they're combined, but they are all getting smaller too, or lower too. The reason for that is because if you double click on the combiner, they're averaging each other. So that's not cool. I want to just add them together. So you can change the method from average to add, and then press OK. Now you can see both are there, and then the strings also need to be cranked up to 1 to make it really work. Okay, so I just added a new mountain there using the tools underneath generator, the first one, layout generator, and then I combine them together. Okay. Now let's see how we can get some more noise on it, because if you go to the 3D view here, see now this mountain looks fairly okay, but my other mountains are kind of simple and wonky. Not wonky, but too smooth. So let's go back to the node, the device view, and you can go use this advanced Perlin. What it does is using a Perlin noise to generate heightmap. You can double click on it and change something like maybe the style to rigged or below it, in any way you want it to be. I'm gonna use the basic one. It looks nice, and then you can change the octaves. Okay, the higher this is, the more detail you have. The persistence also is the contrast of the smaller detail, and you can change the elevation to bring it up and down, and the steep to change the contrast or stretching it. So I need some normal noise here. Okay, and of course you can try to experiment with all those simple things, smaller things, to make it look more complicated. But my purpose here is just having some noise. So let's press OK, and then connect. Then I want to combine those two together, so we can go for the combiner again. And this time I'm gonna combine this one with my combined version of my two mountains. And then here what I want to do is changing the average also to add and crank up the strings. Okay, that way I'm combining those all together. I think this one is too high. Let me lower down the elevation and press OK. That way they're not all popping up. This green build button will be actually generating the model. So if you look at my model now, I have a lot of smaller noise added to the original mountain. But still, it looks very simple. It's not because I need more noise, but because their shape, it doesn't look like mountain shape. Because the real mountain shape will be sculpted by any nature events like raining, flooding, water, erosion, all those kind of stuff. But my mountains just don't have that. So that's why the shape looks not as convincing as real landscape mountain. So we're gonna actually need to apply those natural erosion on it. Let's go back to the node editor or the device view here, and you can go for the natural part, and you can go use the erosion. Okay, let's connect the combined result to the erosion. Okay, and then let's double click to open it. You can change the erosion base duration to control how much erosion will be applied. You can also change the erosion type to channel or standard. Channel erosion will give you more smaller channels. If you take a look, let's build it again and take a look. See, now there will be smaller channels appeared on the mountain. Okay. If you want to have the effect to be even more dramatic, you can go back to the erosion and then crank up the geological time erosion, and then maybe drag that up a little bit. Okay, what that does is apply that effect so many times, like to make it looks like it has been like millions of years has passed. Okay, so the mountain will be sculpted a lot. If you go press OK and then run it again, build it again, and then you go to the mountains. You see now the mountains feels more natural. Okay, because they're being sculpted in a quite realistic way. Okay. I kind of don't like this middle mountain here. Its top is too even, so I'm gonna go back to the layout generator. Okay, that's my mountain. What I want to do is probably make it smaller and maybe drag the circle away so it's not a consistent shape. Let's go back and then see the final result. Okay, and you can see the good thing about node-based is it's non-destructive, so you can always go back to the beginning stage or any middle stage and change what's happening there. Let's build it again, and then let's go take a look here. Alright, let's go. And there are other natural effects you can do, like the thermal weathering. Okay, thermal weathering means when the object, the substance or any material on the top of the mountain getting flashed downwards, they will actually being gathered at the bottom of the mountain to create some bulging effect at the bottom. Okay, that's what that is. You can double click on it and then change how much that effect will be. Can do a lot or very little. Too much will make it too smooth. Okay, so maybe just a little bit. You can use the classic, the two-phase is a bit expensive, and the rock angle, don't change that, it's gonna cause interesting effect. Okay, so the mass balance is like how much will be at the bottom. Okay, and then let's build it again and then take a look. Okay, see that at the bottom of the mountains you're getting smoother result. Okay. Alright, I think this mountain and that mountain, their size also pretty close. I'm gonna lower that down a little bit. It's very easy to do. Let me just go back to the layout and grab that, double click on it and change the default value of the hat to lower it down. Alright, now let's go back and take a look at the final result. Need to build it again to get more detailed results. Okay. Alright, so I'm happy with it. Let's move on to more nodes we can do with it. Here you can still drag in the new ones like the snow one to create snow on the top of the mountain. This snow one is pretty expensive, so just be aware of that. You can crank up the intensity a lot, and then a lot of snows, and press OK. I see my computer is getting slow. Let's build it. And you see the last node is taking like forever, the snow one here. Okay. And when it's done, if you take a look here, it will try to apply the snow effect. Okay, I'm not gonna create a snowy environment, so I don't really need that. So I'm gonna go back to my node editor and then delete that snow. But this one is interesting. That's called the coast erosion, which will be the water effect on the model. Let's connect to that. Double click on it. First thing you want to change is the water level, but it's really hard to visualize it. You can actually go back to here on the far left window here. You can go show the water level. Okay, and you can drag that down, maybe there. Okay. And then let me double click on the coast erosion and check out the use global water level. It's gonna use that one, and then you can change the beach size to determine how big the beach is. Okay, and then the translation zone, is it smooth or it's more like a cliff on the side? If you choose cliff, you have a sharper transition here. Okay, that's what that is. If you want water to be there. If you don't, you want to go back and change that to a smooth result. Okay. So it's gonna look smoother here. And you can control, of course, how much the beach is to make it smoother or lesser smooth. Okay. For basic version, you don't have too much control over it though. In the full version of it, you have more choice here to create the water erosion. The smooth underwater feature will be smoothing the bottom part. Anything underneath the water, you can turn that off and then press OK. That will get some of the detail back at the bottom. Okay. So for me, I think I need a little bit of it. But I don't want it to be too visible. I'm gonna lower down the water level just to have a little bit somewhere over there. Okay, and then let's build it. Alright, so let's say I'm happy with all the mountain I created here. So how do we actually get this out to game engines? Okay, so the thing is that what the game engine does is actually pretty close to what this does. It's just a head map. So you just need to have a head map from here, which is underneath output. You can do a head output to output the head map. Let's connect the result to the result here, and you can do a head map export. But the thing is that the resolution is really low here because it's not a commercial version. So let me delete that. The other option you can do is actually you can export the mesh using the mesh exporter. Okay, and this will actually write out a OBJ for us, and then you can bake the head map in ZBrush or others to have more have a bigger image if you want to have that. The name of the file will be determined here, and then the position will be specify output file position. Let me just export it somewhere here. Let's call it model. Okay, and then save it, and then press write out to disk. It will ask you to build it. Let's just press yes, and it will start building it. And then when that is done, the file written successfully will pop up, and then just press OK, and everything is out. Alright, now let's go back to ZBrush, and then we can actually import it here to take a look. So that's how the mountain looks like in ZBrush. Alright, let me turn on the actually I don't need to turn on anything. Let's just look at it. There are a couple of things you can tweak here, which I think is really nice that they gave us the solution, the choice to export it to ZBrush, so I can fine tune the shape of my mountains, which I think is pretty crucial. You don't have full control of the shape of the mountain inside of Word Machine, so exporting the model out to ZBrush to fine tune it, I think is pretty necessary sometimes. Alright, so let's say I'm happy with the shape now. I can then make it facing me and press F to scale it all the way up to fill in my space again here. And then what I can go for is alpha, and then grab document again and go alpha, export one more time, and this time I'm gonna create a new head map, but the format this time will be the Photoshop. Let's call it mountain head PSD and save it. And then you want to open Photoshop and to actually convert it into a format that game engine can read, which is a raw format. Let me double click and then go to my PSD file, open it. So what I'm going to do is convert this into a raw information. I have some edge there. I think that's because my resolution is not good enough. My document size is set it too big. My monitor resolution cannot handle that. So I'm gonna go down resolution it a little bit by going to document and then change the width to 1K instead of 1280. It doesn't really make that much difference. So making sure you get a map that is having no edge. Okay. Okay, make sure it's the image fills in all the edges. The model fills in all the edges. Let me do that again. So grab document and then export it, and it's gonna be exported as mountain hat PSD. Save it and go back to Photoshop. Open it. And that's the head map. You see it's clean on the edge. And then I'm gonna just directly save it again in Photoshop, and then the format will be the raw format here. Save it, and if you're using PC, you want to change that to PC, and then press OK. And that's it. Now let's move on to game engine. I'm gonna use Unity here. And I'll go over Unreal Engine later. So let's just create a new project. Let me go game object, 3D object, and then a terrain. Okay. And then I'm gonna go to the inspector and change some settings here. The head map will be imported here. Import raw. Click that button to bring up the import settings. Let's go to download and go to the position I export my head map, which is this one, the raw format, and open it. And one of the things you want to do is flip vertical here. And then you don't have to change anything else, just import. That will import the mountain. And there's a big difference here. The mountain seems to be too high. Okay, that's because it's trying to use the full height of the entire mountain. That's how ZBrush generate the height map. So what you want to do is make it lower by changing the terrain height to something lower. I'm gonna use 150 to really push it down a little bit. If you want to have the exact result, you have to calculate. The calculation will be using the word setting here. I think it's this one. Okay, and you see the total height is 8 kilometers. That's the highest. That's the highest you can go. If you want to know how high your mountain is, you can check on the drag the water level all the way to the top. Your height is 2,625 meters. So you want to use this value divided by 8,000 because that's the height. You get the proportion, and you use 600 to multiply by that proportion to get exact the same result. But I don't think that's really necessary though, so I'm not gonna do that. Just assume that's 150 is good enough. Okay, but anyway, so I have a mountain here. Unity, everything is fun. Before we move on to other stuff, let me show you how to do that in Unreal Engine. Maybe I can go for another tutorial for the texturing part. Alright, so for Unreal Engine, Unity is baking here though. So it may be a little slow. Oh, the baking is over. Okay. So for Unreal Engine, things are getting a little bit more complicated. It's always like that. So I'm gonna go for the new project. I'm gonna create a third person, and then just create a new project. The terrain in Unreal Engine is using a different way to separate different components. Let's wait for it to load. I'm gonna go for a new level just to start clean. I don't need that either. Let me drag in a skylight to have some environment lighting. Okay, let's go to landscape, and then you can import from file and load the terrain here. It's gonna be the same file. Okay, let's open it. Now you see what the Unreal Engine gives you is the resolution like 1072. It's not 1K, it's not 1024. The reason for that is it only gives you a couple of different ways, different options to choose its section size and then the component size. So you will get numbers, some numbers, but not other numbers. Okay, and that's why your resolution is here like that. I would say the best way is trust what Unreal Engine tells you to go for, 1072. But because your image is different, if you import it here right now, the result you're getting is gonna be having some edge issue on the far edge of the mountain. You see that here you have some part that are just extruding out on the edge, which is not cool. So what I'm gonna do is Control Z and then go there, and I need to copy the resolution here and go back to Photoshop, actually change my image to that resolution. Okay, and then save it as the raw hat. Let's call this one UE4, and then use the PC again. And then if I go use the UE4 version, and of course it's too high, let's change the Z to something like 30, and then import. Now you see the edge is very clean because the resolution is exactly like the resolution of the mountains. And you know what? I think 30 is too low. Let me go use 50. Maybe even higher than that, like 60. Import. Okay, that seems about right. Alright, that's how you import it into Unreal Engine. Of course, every time you see those weird grading here, it's because you haven't built light yet, so you have to build the lighting. Okay, that's the entire process of creating the shape. And then in the next tutorial, I'm gonna go over the texturing part of the terrain. So see you next time.